Testing. Hey, sorry about that. I just kind of rushed this stream a little bit. Sorry. Welcome to a special live stream because I told a few people in my last stream that as soon as I got the camera, I would just do a stream, open box, answer any questions I have. But I did get the OM-1 in. Came in late last night at 6 p.m. and I just took it out for a short photo walk this morning with David Crooks. And wow, it's nice. So let me give me a second here. Let me finish setting up. Uh yeah, I'm late as usual. I'm sorry. Hi everyone. John is here. Randy, Serge, good to see you. Druid, David, good to see you. Barry. Oh, David Tellett, how you doing? I'm glad you could make it. I'm so sorry. I just put this stream up just about an hour ago. Which is shorter than usual. Usually I give at least 12 hours, but um, anyway, I'm here to take the take any questions you might have about the OM-1 since I have it here in front of me. And I'm gonna set up so I could share the menu screens and everything as well too. Also, there is a link in the bottom in the description. So if you want to join me live and ask me questions live instead of through the chat, just click that and have your webcam set up and all. But I can bring you in and we can just talk about it if you want. So let me just get a little more coffee. So I haven't had a lot of time hands-on with the camera because last night I was just charging the battery. So when I got the battery, it was totally dead. And I charged it up and it took an hour and 20 minutes to fully, no, 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm sorry, to fully charge it using the supplied USB cable and USB power bank. So they just give you a little power bank. And so about an hour and 20 minutes. Now, the battery is new. It's not compatible with, say, the EM1 Mark III that I have here. And it's a shame because they're so close. The new battery is just rounded corners at the top, but it's only about a millimeter longer. And let me show you what I did. And just hold on to your question just for a second. I bought this, it's a car charger for the EM1 Mark III battery, right? The square battery, and it just pops right in. But this battery, this is the new battery, and it's slightly rounded on the top here. And the pins line up perfectly with the old battery. And when I stick this in, it's just about a millimeter longer, so it doesn't fit. But if I hold it, it will charge this battery. So what I did is I just got a rubber band to hold it in there and charge. I'm not saying you guys should do that, buy the original OM Systems charger. But I did take a chance and I tried it and it worked. So I was able to use this generic USB charger to charge the battery externally from the camera. Because I just don't like charging in camera. It doesn't make sense to me why people would do that. Other than to top it off if you're out on a photo walk or something. But yeah, it's just weird to me. I guess I'm old school. But anyhow, that's that. That's my first hack that I've done with this camera. And yes, Wayne says, does the little flash come with the camera? So here's the box. And box is okay. I mean, it actually, not that anybody cares at all, but I don't think these boxes are as nice as the ones that came with like my Pen F, for example. Because it's just cardboard. and then it's painted cardboard, right? The Pen F box came uh, in a cardboard box, but it was a thin cardboard box on the outside, all black, and then inside was another box that you took out and opened again. So it was kind of double boxed in a way. But there's the manual and warranty, and so this is a clip to secure the HDMI cables. This is the bag for the flash. Here's the FLM3 mini flash, so it definitely comes with this, which I'm going to put on eBay and sell this. Get some of my money back. And then I might sell this strap too. What is this? Oh, this is another cable holder. So there's a couple of cable management type things. And then the strap, let's see what the strap says. There we go. It says OM system OM-1. Oh, wait, there's more. It says Olympus too. Well, that's cool. The strap was made in China, if that makes any difference to anyone. And it's like every other strap you get with a camera. Nothing special. I guarantee this is a fake like leather, and then your standard nylon strap. That might go on eBay too. That's what I do sometimes is when I get a camera, brand new, I take out all the accessories I'm not going to use and sell them separately on eBay. So between the strap and the flash, maybe the cable management, I might keep those. There's about 70, $80 there, right? If it came with a freaking charger, I'd sell the charger too and use these generic ones, because the chargers, those are about 50 to $100 if you sell those separately, depending on which one. Because they're OEM. Some people are hardcore, OEM, will not buy anything generic, which I respect. But me, doesn't matter to me. Okay, so the Randy says, not to be negative, Nelly, but it would cost me about $5,000 to switch my two EM1Xs and get the grips and battery chargers, and I'm saving for the 150. Yeah, save for the 150. The 400. I mean, generally speaking, you always want to invest in lenses and not so much in bodies. But I'm just a gearhead and have gas and can't control myself, so I don't really need the OM-1. It's really nice. Wow, C&H, he likes the in-camera charging. Which I get. The way you explain it makes sense. But when I had my cell phones, I had a separate battery that I kept fully charged up. When you used to be able to change the batteries in your cell phone, my Galaxy S5, for example, I had an extra battery, and I would keep it charged up separately and keep my S5 charged. But a phone will go all day, a couple days on a single battery, whereas a camera, you can burn out pretty quickly, depending on what you're doing, especially if you're doing sports action. Now, for me, I was shooting today, I was shooting silent shutter mostly, if not all of it. And I only got 314 shots, and the battery said 43% life left. So that's pretty typical to what I was getting with the EM1 Mark III. I mean, your mileage will vary, right? But I mean, some days I get I'll get 1,000, 2,000 shots on a single charge when I was on the Mark III, which I have no doubt this will do the same, if not a little better. I mean, technically it's supposed to be a little better, but for me today, that's what happened today on this photo walk. But I was really fiddling with the menu and stuff. It was a little awkward because I would say the menu is about 80% the same as the M1 Mark III, but the other 20% they regroup things that make more sense. If you're starting from scratch, it makes more sense to make the menu the way they did. But coming from the EM1 Mark III and jumping into the OM-1, it was like, oh, where'd they put it? Where is it? Where I'm looking for it, It's not where it was supposed to be. Ah. Anyhow, let's see. Yeah, in-camera charging is a straight because with a camera, right? Typically, you're going to have at least one extra battery, and you want to keep that fully charged. So you got the dual charger that they sell now. I usually charge up one at a time, and I do them externally. So I have two fully charged batteries, and then I put one in the camera and carry the other one with me. And when the first one dies, I can swap, right? And keep shooting. But how do I charge the second battery just in case I want to keep going? The way you do it now is you just plug it into, an external charger and keep charging. So that way, when this one runs out, you can swap again. I mean, it's because otherwise, if I had to charge them in camera, I'd have to charge one, wait for it to finish, then swap, then charge the second one, wait for it to finish, and then I can go out the next day on my job. So it just seems a little weird. But what I did check was while it was charging to see if the battery generated any kind of heat, and it didn't generate any heat at all. It was very, very cool the whole time. So because that's one of the concerns I have is when you charge things in camera, the battery could generate some heat, and it didn't generate any heat at all. And if you look at a battery closely, um, if you have an OEM battery, there's multiple pins here, right? There's four pins. You have positive and negative, but then you also have one here, T, which is the temperature. It gives you the temperature of the battery to the camera so that while it's charging, or if it's in use and it starts to overheat, the camera will know to either shut down, or if you're charging, it'll know to reduce the rate that it's charging at. Because if it's trying to charge it too fast, it can get hot, so it'll reduce the rate. And that's what an original battery, generic batteries, they have the same four pins, but the temperature pin is a dummy pin. It doesn't do anything. It just tells the camera that it's set to default as it's not overheating, that it's at a normal temperature. So that's one of the problems with generic batteries and why they swell because of heat. They swell up sometimes, is they don't have a real temperature sensor built in. And while you're using it, uh, you know, the camera will allow the battery to overheat and then thus it starts swelling. But especially when you're charging batteries, if you don't have a temperature monitor, you have potential for it to get overheat and swell a little bit. Uh, yeah, it's probably the last time it's going to say Olympus on the strap. So it's kind of a collector's item. Maybe I'll hold on to it for a while. Um, no, we're live, Roberto. We're definitely live. And yeah, I never use neck straps. Well, I don't use the neck straps that come with the camera. I make my own, which is basically a paracord and some E-ring clips. And that's been working out for me pretty well. I had a little problem initially where the clip would unhook itself and the camera would fall. But I finally kind of worked that out, and I haven't had another incident since. Um, But yeah, I spent $10 and I got like 50 feet of paracord, and I made 6 or 7 of these straps uh, with keyring hooks, and they're just little like carabiner type clips. They just clip on and clip off very easily. All right. Roberta, you just woke up. Yeah, Roberta, I was thinking about maybe Thursday next week you could be a guest on the stream, and we'll do it like at maybe 6 p.m. my time, which would be like 8 a.m. your time, but I'll email you. But that way you're not up at like 2 in the morning like you are now. Okay, here's a question. Where do they build the camera? All right. Yeah, I was curious myself because that's another change I noticed. On the bottom of the camera, let me see if there's. I'm not gonna need my glasses. I can't see. Oh, I don't have my chat window up. That's crap. Forget about the chat window. Uh, on the bottom, let's see. There's there's just a serial number, right? But like on the EM1 Mark III, oh, I have my plate. But there's the serial number with the model number and where it's made. There's usually a sticker right here, but the OM-1, it doesn't have that. It just has the serial number on the bottom. So I was kind of looking around to see where it might be. It might be on the box. But inside, oh, it's right inside here. Okay, so let's see what that says. This camera, OM Digital Solutions, made in Taiwan, or I'm sorry, made in Vietnam. God, even with these glasses, I can't hardly read. Let me try a different pair. I feel like Fred Sanford, he's got a bunch of glasses in a drawer. Yeah, definitely Vietnam. So let me show you that. I don't know if I don't know how close I can focus there, but it says right there, made in Vietnam. If you can see that, if I can get a little closer. Nope, that's it. Made in Vietnam. And the battery is dated 2021 October 17, and OM Digital Solutions 2280 amps, milliamps. I'm sorry, not amps. Max charge, yada 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 yada. It doesn't say where it was made though. There it is. No, it says the cells are made in Japan, packed in China. That's interesting. So right at the very top, right at the very first line here, it says the cells are made in Japan, but it was packed in China. Well, that's interesting. All right. Details, right? Details. Yeah, that's exactly what I do ahead of a job. I charge all the batteries the night before, and all the flashes. I usually charge 2 different flash batteries, and because my flashes use lithium ion batteries. and then I charge two batteries for the camera. It was the M1 Mark III. So I had two batteries that were fully charged, and I'd go on a job and I was good to go. Yeah, the body was made in Vietnam. And as we know that Olympus built a brand new factory in Vietnam just a couple of years ago, and then sold it to OM Systems, or JIP, I should say. Don't cheap out and get a real charger. Maybe. If I can get a deal on one. Oh, hey Des. I'm glad you could join us today. That's cool. I know you don't make it to the streams too often. I guess my timing is off. And Roman says, I tried the OM-1 in the shop. The live ND is really cool. 11-second handheld sharp pictures. Face detect, still not great. Face detect is actually, I thought, really good. And the bird detect. Oh, thank you, Adam. I'm happy. I did treat myself. People ask me, how much it costs. It's 20. I paid the same price as everyone else. I got it for $21.99, and I got a free battery and 3-year warranty. But I tell people, no money down, because I put it on my credit card. So Capital One really paid for it. No, not Capital One, Chase Bank. Chase Bank paid for it. I just have to pay Chase Bank back over the next 18 months at 0%. So well, not really 0%. I paid a 3% fee to get the 0%. So I'm paying 3%, or about $65. It says, I don't care where the body is made. Japan is great. China is great too. Lots of fine products made in China. Yes. Uh, yes, it will charge off a USB bank. I have done that. Definitely. And Sebastiano is here. Hi. And Rick says, I love the idea of in-camera battery charging. I'd run the camera from high storage power bank on my belt and treat the in-camera battery as my power reserve for when the power bank is depleted. Yeah, my only concern is that when you have the thing plugged into the USB thing, you have to be very careful not to, if you're hand holding and run and gun, you have to be careful not to break the USB-C port. I guess that's why they gave the cable management thing. But if you're in a studio on a tripod, yeah, that makes perfect sense to do it that way. Run off a power bank, and the battery will be fully charged. And then, let's see. It says, I transfer by a cable so I don't leave my card behind. The key plugged in, let the computer charge it too. Then, I'm sorry, the print is so small on my screen, I can't. Then I keep it plugged in to let the computer charge it. Oh, I see. I see. So you never take your card out. You do everything by USB. Okay. Yeah, the M1X, you got two batteries built in, right? But he says, charge my M1X while on the road, and after downloading images at home, I just leave plugged in and charging two batteries. So easy. Yep. And then on RobShootPhotos website, the OMD M1 Mark II has better dynamic range than the OM1. How can that be? Or photons to photo, but then the M1X, the M Mark III is basically okay. I did take some pictures just before the stream started. Um, see if we can see if the dynamic range is really any different. It's a very rough test between my EM1 Mark III and my OM-1. So we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you have to buy you have to buy their dual battery charger separately. That's the only way. Because they sell a dual battery charger separately. It should be available soon if it's not already. It's 150 bucks, but that's the only way. How's the weight in hand? It's exactly the same as the EM1 Mark III or EM1 Mark II. I mean, it feels a little different here where my index, not my but my middle finger goes, right? It feels a little bit different there. It's a little more uh there's more indent. It's a it's a much just a slightly more indented. So it feels the same. Technically, it's only about a millimeter or two bigger all the way around, and it's 20 grams heavier. But I don't really feel it when I'm holding it. 20 grams it's hard to tell sometimes. But yeah, there's really no difference. I have to look twice at the camera before I realize which one I'm looking at, an EM1 Mark III or an OM1. And yes, John, you'd say the newest factory is in Vietnam. And Marco, hey Marco, it says, I can't tell via touch feel. Can you tell if the power switch concave buttons in the power switch and the hinge for a display are yeah, they're plastic. The way I tell between metal and plastic is I just put it up to my skin. If it feels cold, it's metal, but it's plastic. Definitely plastic. Uh, that's plastic. The bottom's metal. This door is plastic. I think they have a skeleton view somewhere on their site. It's mostly like a skeleton magnesium alloy thing. Mostly metal, but the buttons are all plastic. Oh, this dial is plastic too. Feels like. Let me get a closer look. Yeah, plastic, plastic. Plastic switch. And this is metal. The mode dial is metal. At least on the sides. The center is plastic, it feels like. So the mode dial has a plastic center, and the knurling along the outside is metal, so it's like a two-piece thing. And the center button is plastic. The dials are plastic. Yeah. Every button is plastic otherwise. The shutter button, yeah, that's plastic too. Because it doesn't feel cold. Okay. Druid says I'm not excited about. Well, I like the change in the front dial personally, because the problem I used to have with my EM1 Mark III, maybe I'll switch views here. Maybe, is I'll focus here. This is the OM1, right? So when I'm taking a picture, I'm fine. I'm just pushing the shutter button. And if I want to change, right, it's right here. Okay, the EM-1 Mark III is the dial is built right into the button. And the problem I had sometimes is I would be turning the dial, but then I'd accidentally touch the shutter button. So it would like half press and refocus, or you know, if I locked focus and then I want to change something, yeah, this was annoying to me. Sometimes I would accidentally hit the shutter button while I was changing the dial, and it would refocus or something. Whatever happens when you half press the shutter button, those things are kind of weird to me. So that was the only annoying thing. Um, so I like that they separated it personally. Let's see. They should make a silver limited edition. Yeah, that would be cool. Oh, hey, Jimmy's here. How you doing, Jimmy? Good to see you. Everybody, Red 35 or Jimmy Chang on the Red 35 YouTube channels here. Let's see. I'm pleased that the HLD10 also charges. Okay, that's good to know. I'll never buy the grip myself, but that's good to know for people. Oh, these are your shots from, let me see what they look like. If I can share. Yeah, I meant to share some pictures with you guys. Let me go to, I'm right. Give me a second. I can't. It's so annoying. Hold on. Gotta be this one. Yeah, this is the right one. All right. I don't know why OBS, every time I start OBS, all the monitors get mixed up. So this is a shot. I let David borrow the camera for a few minutes, but he took this shot with the Olympus OM-1 and the 100 to 400. Yeah, that looks really good. Let's see, this is at 200. So you only zoomed out to 227 millimeters. 1/1000th of a second, ISO 1250. And then this is your edit here in Lightroom. Okay, cool. Oh, a little bit of noise there. Unfortunately, Photolab 5 with Deep Prime doesn't support the OM-1 yet. I tried and it didn't work. Okay, let me see. Because now is your opportunity to go down in the history books as the very first person in the world to drop the new OM. Oh, really? I don't think so. I mean, people have been. I mean, okay, this is a production model. I seriously doubt I'm the first, though, but that's cool. And I'm not sure if you answered this already, but how is it in low light? I have not answered this. Let's look at some pictures I took. And because, like I said, I just got the camera last night and I charged it and fell asleep. And then I went out this morning on a photo walk. Let me see if I can pull these up. So here's some test shots I did, right? All right. So I did some test shots at all these different ISOs, right? And I shot with the EM1 Mark III and OM-1 for comparison. So let's just pull up the RAWs. And here's a low light shot, right? So this is at 1/60th of a second. So that's all right. So this shot here, is this the OM-1? Oh, this is the EM1 Mark III. We'll get there. 1 second. And yellow. All right, so these two shots here are underexposed by 2 stops. So these are underexposed shots. And we can, and these are the raw images, and I didn't apply anything. We can punch in, and then let me see which one. Okay, so OM-1 is on the left. And you see it says 13EM. That's the EM1 Mark III. I didn't get a chance to change the file names here, but let's unlock these. Because what I wanted to do is so these are underexposed by 2 stops. And what I'm going to do is just push these by 2 stops, right? And see if there's any difference in the shadow noise. Let me lock these. It's pretty close. This is the base ISO. I don't really see any difference. So let's do this. This one I underexposed by, this is 2, 3. This is 4 stops underexposed. Well, let's do 5 stops. Why fiddle around? Come on, turn off, and off. All right. Let's compare these two. This is 5 stops underexposed at base ISO. So let's bring the exposure back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring this one up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, look at the difference. Now you can see it. Let's get this to render. Hold on. It's a white balance issue. This looks like this is more of a white balance issue. Damn it, I thought I locked the white balance. Let me fix that real quick. That's interesting. The EM1 Mark III, the color is vastly different. When I push it 5 stops. The noise, did I fix the white balance or not? I don't understand. I'm gonna go, let's pick this and then do the same thing on this one, the same spot. Now let's compare. Yeah, it's a big difference in color. Um, the OM-1 did a much better job, I think, at retaining the colors. Because if we back off, this is all yellow and it should not be. Look at the highlights here. The OM-1 retained all of these highlights much, much better. Let me just check the exposure. 1/500th, 1/500th f4. Yep, same lens. Okay. Wow, that's a huge difference. Look at that. So that's pretty solid. I mean, that's the way I would test or just kind of eyeball dynamic range, I think. Um, let's see. I like the new position of the dial. Sorry, I lost my place here on the. Do the dials feel stiffer? Why isn't these popping up on this chat? Let me scroll back up. You like me touching the camera with my face, but that's how you can tell if something is metal or plastic. The metal's going to be much colder. Um, the dial is metal. Okay, yeah, I know the knurling definitely feels metal. Oh, it is metal because now it's cold again. So okay, my bad. Uh, Jimmy's talking about the mode dial here. The mode dial is metal. It just doesn't feel as cold as the. But I think the knurling is a little bit deceptive. And it's not magnetic, I don't think. Let me see. I got like this super powerful magnet. Yeah, the camera's not magnetic at all. The ooh, you know, um, something inside the lens though. I better not do that. Actually, oh no, I bet the bottom is metal. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing here. No continuity to the stream today, right? Like I was talking about dynamic range. Now I'm looking at metal. Anyway, uh, yeah, I was trying to answer Alro's question here. So I think in terms of post-processing, the OM-1 is doing a much better job. If you're going to shoot in low light and you have to push the shadows or push the exposure, it's doing a much better job. I mean, look at the colors here on the left with the OM-1 versus the M1 Mark III. I mean, that's a substantial difference. The OM-1 is retaining the colors very accurately, especially here in the highlights. It's just not blowing the highlights out at all when I push the shadows or I push the exposure back. So that's pretty impressive. Over here it looks pretty close. And let me take these back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Went one too many here. So initially when you look at it, you're shooting something in low light, they're pretty close, but the OM-1, when you have to bring it back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that it did a much, much better job. So that's just kind of an extreme test. Okay, how do I like the new menu? I'm kind of neutral on that. The new menu, like I said, is about 80% the same in terms of where they put things. The other 20% is stuff like is stuff that was in the EM1 Mark III menu, but they put it into a more appropriate place. Now, off the top of my head, I can't give you any examples, but while I was going through the menu trying to use the camera today, I did notice that things were in different places, but more logical, like they should have done to begin with. And the high resolution live view screen on the back is I need to do something real quick. Live. No. I want this window. I'm missing a lot of chat questions here, so I need to, let me arrange this real quick. Okay. So I'm kind of neutral. I guess some people like it a lot, but I'm not I don't have a preference either way because I'm like a surgeon with the old menu. I can whip through it like this. This menu is going to take a little getting used to because a lot of times I was used to like scrolling through the menu and clicking the right on the D-pad, whereas on this one, if you click right on the D-pad, the menu moves over. So let me put the battery back in. So I can show you the menu, I believe. My dying eyes. There it is. So let's see, menu. I need to do. No, no, no. Too many screens. Damn it. All right, close enough. Yeah, this is the new menu. So the things are along the top instead of uh, on the side, and just things are grouped more logically, I guess. It's going to take me some time to get used to this because I was fumbling a bit today in the field with this menu system. Oh, here we go. But yeah, I don't have. It's fine. I don't. Both have keep. Oh, that's a good question, Morgan. I didn't check that. Let me see if that was set or not. Um, can't see crap. Hold on. That's it. But you know, when I click the, I'm using the raw image, so keep warm colors wouldn't matter if I'm looking at a raw image. But I'll double check. You're probably right though. I did not set that properly. That's going to be shooting menu 1 most likely. Yeah, the OM1 had keep warm color on. Okay, so the OM1 had keep warm color on. And again, it doesn't matter when you're shooting raw, but just just for academic reasons, let's see. I guarantee this one was probably off. So it's going to be under E or C. C for color. The OMD EM1 Mark III had keep warm color off. So looking at the pictures again, the OM, yeah, even though the OM1 on the left here had keep warm colors on, and the EM1 Mark III had keep warm colors off, you can still see how much warmer the EM1 Mark III is, meaning that the color is off. And it's not, yeah. But like I said, I'm looking at the raw images. Let's have this render. Set the white balance. Yeah, it's a big difference. I'll have to double check though. I'll have to double check. I thought I put both of the white balance setting to tungsten. I pull them up in workspace. They might. Here's workspace. Come on, move over. Workspace, I can't separate the images quite as well. So I need to look at images number 13EM number 4 and 30514-3. 14-3 is this one. I want to look at this one, and 13EM004. 13EM. So in Olympus workspace, push this to EV. Olympus workspace won't let me push it more than two stops. And if we look at, we're at 3000 Kelvin here. And the white balance here is also 3000. So yeah, I set the white balance. I fixed it to 3000 Kelvin. So again, keep warm colors on or off should not make any difference. When we compare these side by side, tough call. The exposure is the same, right? 1/500th. This one is also, yeah, so these are exactly the same. So basically the OM-1 is definitely retaining the highlights a lot better and the colors. I just can't demonstrate it with this particular software because it only lets me push 2 stops here. Yeah, everything else I'm not going to be able to. Okay. But that's a good point, Morgan. But it doesn't matter. I fixed the white balance at 3000 Kelvin on both cameras. Yeah, and yeah, if you're shooting raw, it doesn't matter what profile you use. You're going to get a raw image. I'm sorry. Let me scroll back up. Yeah, Logan, that pretty much sums it up. They just inverted it, right? They just flipped it up so it's horizontal now on the OM-1. And they reorganized a little bit. But yeah. John Dell, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. And yeah, the OM-1 to rule them all. It is kind of kicking butt there. Yeah, magnesium is not magnetic. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I caught up there. And yeah, the menus are a little bit more like Canon in terms of color, but the Canon menus are still better, I think. But it doesn't matter. You know, honestly, once you figure out the settings that you like to use, you don't really need to go in the menu much anymore, right? You set up your own personal My Menu and then you go. I rarely go into well, let me rephrase that. I don't really go in the menus as much as I used to. When you first get a camera, yeah, you're all over the place in the menus trying to find things and tweak things and learn things. But after you configure everything, customize things the way you like it, you know, I can control probably 99% of what I need to do with just the dials and buttons. And I don't need to go into the menus. Yeah, I did find it fast on the on the OM-1. Yeah. I guess it's more intuitive than I thought. Uh I'm just trying to make sure. Was slightly different framing in those test shots due to tripod, yes. No, it's because the reason the framing is slightly different is because I had to swap the same lens from one camera to the other, and it's a zoom lens. So as I'm mounting it, I have to re-zoom it back to 34 millimeters. So it wasn't quite perfect every time. That's why. Mostly because of the zoom lens, I had to re-zoom it manually. And I tried to frame it, but I was in a hurry to do this stream. Um, it's I don't think it does. I've never really looked at a keep warm colors on raw file versus a keep warm colors off. Uh, but because I fixed the white balance at 3000K, the keep warm colors feature is irrelevant. in this case. But I will test it again. I will test it again and make sure that's the case. But it should not make any difference once I fix the white balance to 3000K. Yeah, and when you're looking at the live view on your camera at a picture, even though you shoot RAW and JPEG, it's always going to show you the JPEG. So a really good example is if you shoot RAW plus JPEG, but you have a monochrome setup, your JPEG will always be monochrome. Your RAW will look monochrome until you start to edit it. And then when you edit it, you can change it back to color. But a JPEG, once you shoot monochrome, you can't change it back to color. But a RAW image, you can. And it depends on the editor you're using, how it displays. But usually it'll display the RAW as a monochrome. And then when you start to edit it, it'll change it to the raw color image. Yes, it does have a My Menu on it, which I never use, but it does have one. Uh, yeah, and Rick is just reiterating that camera settings do not affect. The only camera setting, actually, the only let me just make sure I'm thinking right. The only camera setting that's going to affect the raw image is the ISO, basically. How much noise you have in the image. That's kind of a given. That and hello, Thanos, good to see you. All right, so if I missed your question, go ahead and ask it again now. And I'll try and catch it because there's so many messages now. I can't go all the way back up and figure it out or find it if you did ask. I'm looking. But okay, so I went out. Oh, here's a question. Is a My Menu something like a My Set? No, that's different. My Menu is where you can create a screen. I'll just pull it up. I don't know how to use it, but I'll show it to you. I've never used it. That would be a good tutorial, right? See. We're gonna display. Yeah. All right. So up here, this is the My Menus. So you can add things to the My Menus. So let's say, for example, I want to add high-res shot mode to the My Menu. So I push this. And then if I go to My Menu, it should be there. Ugh. Yeah, this I'm not. Let me see if I push this My Menu, click OK, add it to My Menu. There we go. I added high-res shot mode to my menu, right? So if that's something I use a lot and I want a quick shortcut to it, I can put it here, and then I can set the My Menu up so that it's the first thing that displays every time I hit the menu button. I can add another thing here, like image aspect ratio. And then let's say I want to add keep warm colors. Let's see, keep warm colors is probably in here. Yeah. Let's say I want this to be in my menu. So I click that, click OK. So now when I go into my menu, I have high-res shot mode, aspect ratio, and keep warm colors on or off. So I have quick access to it for things that I might use commonly. And apparently you have 4 My Menus as well. The My Sets are the same thing as the custom modes, and that's what the C1, the C1, C2, C3, C4 on the mode dial. Those are your custom settings, or they used to call them My Sets on the EM10s, but now they're called just custom settings. But it's the same thing. You access that through the mode dial. Now, another neat thing I noticed on the OM-1, it looks like you can assign custom settings to a button. So instead of turning the dial to C1 or C2, you can assign one of the buttons to C1 or C2. So you can just quickly push a button, it'll jump to your custom settings rather than having to turn the dial. So a little bit faster workflow depending. And that would be really handy for in the field, like if you want to switch from still shots to birds in flight type shots where you need much faster shutter speeds and continuous autofocus. You can save all that like into C2 and just quickly access that by clicking one button rather than having to turn the dial. So I'm glad they brought that back because I haven't seen that since the EM10 Mark II, to be honest. Um, and Eddie, and wow, I haven't seen you in a long time. How you doing? It's always good to see you. Uh, does the camera really have two stops ISO performance improvement? Or is that at the expense of image softening due to the camera noise reduction and computational photography? So I haven't had a chance to really analyze that for myself, but I have a couple of test shots. Let's see if we can do a quick analysis. Let me go back to cam right. Raw. Turn this off. Okay. So let's say we got one at 800 and two stops would be 3200. And this is the EM1 Mark III. EM1 Mark III at ISO 3200. No, 800. Let's compare these two. So on the left, I have the EM1 Mark III at ISO 800, as you can see. And on the right, I have the OM-1 at ISO 3200. If we punch in, not quite two stops. There's still noise at ISO 3200. Let's go over. Let's just go to the color chart. It's easiest to see the noise in here. So it's close. It's not quite two stops, maybe one in this particular shot. Let me add the ISO 1600. We're at 800 here. That should be 1600. I would say it's one stop in this example difference. There's just a hair bit more noise in the OM-1 at a one stop difference. I would say one stop, safely one stop better. Two stops is a little bit pushing it. Let's compare base ISO 200 versus 800. And no color. That one. So let's compare these two. Here's base ISO 200 on the EM1 Mark III, ISO 800 on the OM-1. So I would say, yeah, it's not quite the same. There's still a little bit of noise at ISO 800, whereas this is completely clean, right? Let's look at ISO 200 versus 400. Did I miss that? This one, this 200. Oh, maybe I didn't do one. That's ISO 200 also. But when I was pushing and pulling the shadows, there was a huge difference. Let's try that one more time. Let's do 2 stops difference. So here is an image from each camera, 2 stops, or is this 3? Let me just double check. This is at shutter speed 1/125th, so 30, 60. Oh, this is 3 stops. Let's do 2 stops. All right, so these 2 images here are 2 stops underexposed. Check the shutter speed. Yeah, 1/60th and 1/60th at f4. If we push this, how come they don't look 2 stops though? Oh, I've already pushed it 2 stops. That's why. All right. So, well, let's push this down back to 0. So these shots are 2 stops underexposed, right? And then if I push them both 2 stops back, let's compare. Now, in this example, when I push 2 stops, the OM-1 is doing a better job. I mean, it's really close, but it's especially in the highlights. I can see that the highlights here on the EM1 Mark III are just about to go, whereas on the OM1, there's still plenty of room here. They've both blown out here. Let's push this another stop. Push this another stop. It's pretty close. Uh, like I said, it's not a perfect test yet. I kind of rushed these shots. But just looking at that, it looks like it's about a 1 stop difference in terms of noise performance. Now, a lot of times well, let me rephrase this. When Olympus claimed a 1 stop improvement in low light performance, they were talking about the JPEGs. That was in a previous camera. It was probably the EM1 Mark III, or maybe it was the EM1 Mark II. But one of their previous cameras, they said that there was a 1 stop improvement in low light performance, but then there was like an asterisk, and it was very specific to JPEGs, not the raw images. So when I'm looking at the raw images here, it looks like it's about a 1 stop improvement, not 2, at the base ISO. But what I'm going to have to do is do a much more thorough testing throughout the ISO range, and then compare, right? I can tell you that when we pushed the previous images by 5 stops, there was a huge difference. And in that case, I would say, yeah, easily there was a 2-stop improvement. So there's sort of somewhere along the ISO range, the the OM-1 is really doing a lot better than the EM1 Mark III. But I haven't, I need to do some sort of matrix and spreadsheet and stuff to figure that out. Uh, and put it and give you a little more a better answer than I can today. I just can't give you a good answer today. All I can tell you is that between ISO 800 and ISO 1600 look about the same between the two cameras, but about 1 stop. Yeah, I don't think there's any softening or anything like that. But that's just what I see for now. Oh, John Truman's here. RN say, can I compare 6400 versus 12,000? Yeah, I can do that. So let's see. Let me go back. Let's do no color. And you want me to compare 6400 versus 12,800. Is that right? Yes, 64 versus 12. So EM1 Mark III at 6400, OM1 at 12,000 or 6400. I'm sorry. EM1 Mark III at 6400, OM1 at 12,800. I assume that's what you want me to do. So let's punch in and let me line these up. So in this case, the EM1 Mark III looks better at 6400 than the OM1 at 12,800. Right? Because you can definitely see more noise here. So there's not a one-stop improvement here when you're looking at just the raw image. However, the colors are different. This is what's freaking me out, is why is the color so different? Let me just compare the white balance 2800 and this one white balance 2650. That's weird because I fixed it at, let me do it manually. Let's compare it now. Yeah, that lines up a little better. Look at how much brighter the background is compared to, well, that's because I changed the ISO. And the shutter speed changed a little bit, so the ambient light's going to be different. Because I did this during the day, shutter speed's affecting how much ambient light's coming in versus my artificial lighting that I have. I wasn't using flash, but I did have some artificial lighting on this. And the artificial lighting here is not quite reaching the back. It's over here, the artificial lighting is not lighting up as much back here as it is over here. Okay, what else you guys want to see? uh Having it designed to work in combination with the new computer app. Some claims rely on this. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so that was that. So Arian Van Gend, I think that's what you wanted to see, right? And I'm not sure what you mean. Is this to prove dynamic range? Dynamic range definitely looks much better on the OM-1. Definitely. But the noise performance is a little bit, yeah, if you're testing noise, shouldn't you use higher ISOs? So yeah, we looked at 6400 and 12,000. I mean, I can go even higher. Let's see. Um, here's 25,000 and 51,000. You can compare these two. Yeah, look at the noise here versus the noise over here. So if I have to use workspace to get this to work, let's see, 397 and 9-3, right? Let's see. What are the file names again? 397 and 9-3, right? So here is 397. Nine 9-3. I apply AI noise reduction to both. Uh-oh. I might have crashed here. Hold on. Let's apply the AI noise reduction here. Okay, and do a side by side. So one, make this one. One. Come on, workspace. Two. So this is the M1 on the left. This is the OM1 on the right. We'll wait for that to resolve. This hourglass is still going up here. I mean, it cleaned it up nicely, but the ISO 25,000 on the EM1 Mark III still looks better. Just a little bit. Let's check the noise over here. Yeah. So a lot of the, I mean, there's a pattern back here that's totally gone over here, whereas over here you can see it. But it's pretty close. Noise reduction software, I mean, the AI noise reduction seemed to help a lot, though. There's still just a hair bit more noise. Okay. Oh, okay, Jimmy. Sorry. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. Um, You're going to be live tomorrow. Okay, good. I have a special guest tomorrow too, live on my channel, but did I do an unboxing? No, I didn't do an unboxing video. I unboxed it here in the stream. I just showed what came in it. Um and Peter Forsgard said it was outstanding. Yeah. Well, I think the AI noise reduction does do an outstanding job. And now that I have an OM-1, I have to use this instead of my Photolab 5 until Photolab 5 comes out with an update. What would you consider acceptable ISO? Well, if it's for paid work, like I have to deliver to a client and I do real estate, architectural type photography, I don't deliver anything above ISO 200. Nothing is really acceptable beyond that. If I had to push the ISO, I've never had to push ISO on a client job because I use Flash. I probably, yeah, I can't imagine going above ISO 200 on any paid work. But I don't, Jimmy and Jimmy Chang does weddings and event photography and portraits. Again, portraits you probably don't want to do over ISO 200 because you're going to use flash. But event photography where you're kind of running around in different settings, you're going from outdoors to indoors, uh, sometimes very quickly, you have to put the camera on auto ISO and let it decide for you. And I would say you could probably still deliver images in those kind of situations up to ISO 6400. Be beyond that, it's a little rough. It depends. Um, Now, if I'm doing like bird photography and where I have to see fine details of like the feathers and things, anything over ISO 1600 is really starting to eat into the details of the very fine feathers of the bird. So I always try to shoot as low as possible ISO with birds and things. Um, Ideally under 800 ISO. So the last time I went out and did bird shooting, I limited my ISO to 800, and I felt like I was still getting very, very good detail even at ISO 800. And that was on my EM1 Mark III. So I would say for bird photography, where you want fine details like in feathers, ISO 800, 1600 in a pinch. For client work, portraits or architectural, things like that, ISO 200. You don't want to go above that because you don't have to, basically. And then things like event photography, I would say you could go up to 6400 pretty safely as long as you're framing everything correctly and you don't have to crop, because when you crop, it's going to exaggerate the noise. So if you're not cropping, you can go up to 6400 in event photography. Um, because you're capturing moments and experience and feelings, things that are going on are more important than the image quality itself. So it's very, very subjective. Uh, it's very subjective to each person, but that's for me personally, that's how I would shoot events versus birds versus portraits versus architectural, sports action. If they're very large objects like cars and trains, you can probably go to ISO 6400. But the smaller the things that you take pictures of, you need to keep the ISO down low because you want to keep the details. That's all. Yeah, I pre-ordered mine February 22nd, and I just got it yesterday, March 4th. Um, but I could have picked it up in store March 3rd, but they told me they didn't have it. And then I get a notice that they're going to ship it to me. I think it varies a little bit what regions you are in around the world as well. But here in the US, they should be shipping right now. Because I got mine, Marco got his, no question. And then Logan says sports, I use 6400 ISO max. So yeah, like I said, if you're shooting very large objects like cars, even people, if you're close enough and they're filling the frame, you can go to ISO 6400 for sports and action stuff. Event photography is mostly people, so 6400 is okay. But yeah, little stuff, birds, especially little chickadees and titmouses and cardinals, they're about the size of your fist, and you want to get all the fine details. You want to be as low as possible. And then George says, take a look at Lindsay Dobson's. Okay. Um, but okay, so that's the OM-1. Does anyone have any other questions or want to look at anything else I did? Like I said, I didn't really prep for this stream too much other than taking a few pictures. We can look at some of my pictures from this morning. Is the right? Yeah, this will work. Um, let's talk about the autofocus a little bit, the tracking and stuff, because that was pretty freaking amazing. Um, that raw image. I didn't have tracking turned on for these shots, but like this shot here, what are my, I'm at 1.4, oh yeah, my shutter speed's too slow. Here's a bird I was trying to track. I think I had tracking on, bird tracking on here. I think it started here. So yeah, nailed it. Nailed it here. I lost it there. Lost it. Lost it. And then here it caught back up. Lost it. Lost it. Went behind a tree, lost it. Man, that's rough. I don't think I had bird tracking on, come to think of it. These were my first shots. Let me scroll down. What's the file number? I can tell by because when I started the photo walk, I didn't have bird tracking on, and then I figured it out later. I just can't remember where I figured out it was turned on. This is file number 9732. I definitely had it on for these shots. Well, these are David's pictures, so I know he doesn't have word tracking because it has DLC. I don't know how I got these in my camera. It's weird. Um, so those don't count. Those didn't have bird tracking. I don't. This one did. So I missed it here. Did it ever catch it? What's my shutter speed? 1/1000. Yeah, this okay, there, now it's caught it. And then good, 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 flying away. So the first couple shots, it was off. This is probably motion blur, but we'll just say it's out of focus. That one's good. it's doing okay. You know, I'm just using the 75 to 300. Let's see what else. It locked onto these, no problem. Okay, here's a good one. Like, look at this, right? Um, there's a branch right here, but it was able to lock onto the bird pretty well. And if I, you know, if I bring it up 2 stops, you can see the bird is there. But it definitely nailed focus, that render out. So it did a good job there. This is a different bird. Let me crank it up a notch. Oh, this is the same bird, just on the side. So it picked out this bird pretty well. Got it there, got it there. And you can see there's a lot of branches here that are kind of blurry in front of it. So it was able to see the bird and get through all these tiny branches. Yeah, so it did a really good job with this bird. How about how about this one? That's a tough call. I can't tell. No, it looks like it missed. But I think this is understandable. It kind of got it though. It is kind of in focus. Yeah. That you know, that's asking too much, I think. This is another one. I just kind of flipped around real quick and got the shot. Let's see. Yeah, we got it. I mean, there's a little bit of softness here because, you know, it's the cheap kit lens, right? But that looks good. That bird shot, I just saw it flying and I flipped around and I just caught it in the frame and I took a picture and it just locked on and got it right away. That was pretty amazing. See if I got any other shots. These ducks were kind of the same thing too. Um, and my shutter speed 1/1000th, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. That the bird detect autofocus is really good. I mean, for me to be able to just swing around and quickly get a shot of the birds flying, I could never do that on my EM1 Mark III. I mean, I could, but it was not. I had to get it because I use single point. I don't use tracking, right? But with bird detect, these ducks were kind of high up in the frame, but with bird detect, it just locked focus on it, even though they were high up in the frame. So that's a huge deal if you're doing birds in flight type photography. Yeah, I was using the 75 to 300 kit lens. Okay, Drew, we'll see you later. Oh, Chicago has 10% sales tax. My gosh. It's only 6% here, which is still sucks. And let's see. Hi, Rob. Can you do a tutorial on the camera and lens maintenance? Ooh, I'm not one to give a tutorial on maintenance. Um, the only thing I do when I clean the cameras is I just use a little toothbrush. You kind of get into all the nooks and crannies and things. That's the only thing I can tell you. Everything else, yeah, I'm not the right person to ask. Question, does the OM-1 have audio with slow-mo? That's a good question. Let's try it. me put a card in here. So what do we have? We have we won't do 60. Let's try 120, then we'll do 240. Oh, come on. There we go. So I'll put this in movie mode. And let's see. We're going to do full HD. 100 frames per second. 120. And just put it in P mode. All right, so I'm recording now. So testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, testing. Oh, nope, the mic is off. Why? Let's check the menu, see if the audio is turned off or if it's just disabled when you do high res. Sound recording settings. Recording volume. +10. Okay, so if I hit record, mic is disabled in high speed mode. Let's try full HD. Mode 2. ISO. I was in H.265. Let's try H.264. Yep, the mic is still disabled. Disabled. Let me just check 60p because it should work. Can you full HD 60p forward testing 1 2, so audio is working there. And okay, so it looks like when you're in full HD doing 120 or 240, you know, all the high speed, audio is disabled initially. I don't see any way to turn the audio on. Because when I went to full HD 60p, the audio came back on. But when I went into full HD high speed, audio turned off. So that is all I see in here. I'll just check one more time in the menu if there's anything here. Yep, it didn't matter if I was in H.265 or H.264. It seems like the audio is disabled. Okay. Yeah, the 75-300, it's not a bad lens. I still need to practice more with this new camera, and then I'll get better pictures again. I'll get better pictures as I develop my skill set. And the GH6 has audio for some slow mode. Probably. I'm not familiar with the GH6, but it's pretty awesome for video. I know that. And John Higley says, hi. What focus selection do you use when using Pro Capture with birds in flight into and out of frame? Um, I would just use the 5-point grid. So that's what I did on the M1 Mark III. On this camera, let me go to shutter priority. Set my shutter speed to 1/1000th. And my focus to 5-point, and turn on bird detect, and then go to Pro Capture mode. Play it. Why are my shutter modes minimized here? Do I have some of the... Oh, I had high-res shot mode on. Let me turn that off. All right, let me try again. So Pro Capture SH2. I can change that, and okay. So this is what I would do. And again, I'm gonna have to go out in the field and practice. Uh, I'm still here. Give me a second. Why isn't this showing? Well, I have the autofocus set to this 5-point or cross. This is what I would use for birds. And then in the super control panel, Pro Capture SH2 with continuous autofocus, and turn face detect off, center weighted metering, and I would be in shutter priority at least 1/1000th of a second. And then I would activate the birds like so. So those are the settings I used today for the birds in flight. I don't think there was anything else. Yep, that's what I did. And that seemed to work pretty well. Like so. Okay. Seriously. Okay. Let me find So what I did was when I flipped around to take a picture of a bird, I would try and center the bird in the frame so that at least the cross autofocus would pick it up if the bird detected not. But usually what I found was as soon as I got the bird in the frame, anywhere in the frame, the bird detected the bird right away. But there was one or two instances where it didn't detect the bird right away, so I centered the bird into the center of the frame and locked focus, but it almost instantly picked up the bird in the frame every time. It was pretty amazing. But if you're not going to use the bird detect, that's what I would use, you know. If you don't turn the bird detect on or forget to, because sometimes you're doing it fast, the cross point is the best. And then if you have bird detect turned on, it's even better. And at Rob Trek, have you tried the Ellie detect? Yes, I have tried it. The dog detect is pretty awesome too. I didn't have time to load the pictures of her onto the computer, but they're on the other SD card that's in the camera here. And what camera do you suggest I buy? I've used ESO M6, but want to go Canon to Sony. Can you please suggest? Uh, I would need more information. Like, for example, why do you want to go to Sony? If you want to buy a Sony camera, uh, A7 IV? Is it the A7 IV is very popular, has excellent autofocus, 30 some megapixels. It's a really good camera, but you're going to buy bigger lenses and all of that because you say you're using the EOS M6. That's a tiny camera compared to the A7 IV. Money no object, you know, the Sony A1. It's like $6,000, but that's a kick butt camera. But if you want to stay like in the $2,000-3,000 range, you know, closer to 3,000 than 2,000, the Sony A7 IV is probably your best bet if you want to go to Sony. But I would forget about like the A7Rs. Uh, I would just get the A7, not the A7Rs. I would get the A7s, and if your budget allows for it, just go all the way to the A7, the A1. Just skip everything in between. Um, that's how it goes. So unless for some reason you want super high resolution, but going from like 33 megapixels to 42 megapixels, it's not that big a deal. So the A7 IV is a really good deal. I think it's $2,300 or something. And then really nothing is good until you get to the A7 A1, the Sony A1. That's my opinion. Just one man's opinion, but that's what I would do. Forget about the A7 III. Don't get that. It's a good deal, but don't get it. Did did the focus group, how many points used matter during bird subject? Uh, when I was doing it, you know, the focus points have changed a lot because there's like 1,000 of them now. So now they just refer to them by shape. So crosshair, uh, is what I use. But then with the bird detect, it didn't matter how much of the frame the bird took. I don't know if I can demo that. Let me try that real quick. I can show you. Um, yeah, this is working. Hold on. Let me go to this screen. See that? That's with the bird detect on. So even though I have the crosshairs on, it's detecting that pretty quickly. And if the birds are larger in the frame, See what I mean? I think that's what your question is, right? How many points is it using in bird detect? Yeah, bird subject detection. So it doesn't matter. And if I back this off, you can see that it's using a smaller number of points. And then as the bird flies into the frame, it picks it right up. If I have any other. Yeah, if the bird's too small in the frame, it's not going to pick it up, obviously. Like, let's try this one. No, that's too small. Let's try. Yep, there. It's kind of got it. It works a lot better outside. Because I'm just pointing this at my computer monitor. So it is struggling a little bit with that, but that's, this is not really a fair test. I can tell you in practice, this worked really well outside. I hope that kind of answered your question by just demoing that part. I'm just trying to see if I missed any other questions here. Can Pro Capture mode be used with Lumix lenses on the new camera? For example, I only have a couple of Lumix lenses. I don't have any of the. I don't have the 100 to 400, but let me see. I have a 25 millimeter. Let me see if this will work. If it works with this, it'll probably work with the PL1 100 to 400. So Pro Capture SH2. Yeah, it's working. Let me see. It's still writing. Yeah, so yeah, it definitely works with Panasonic lenses, Pro Capture. Because if it works with that one, it'll work with any of them. And let's see. Uh, DP review said AF tracking only good when subject detect. Yeah. AF tracking is different than subject detect, right? AF tracking tries to tries to figure out what it is that it wants to track versus you tell it what to track. Let's see. Better start your weight training. Hi, Rob. What is the lowest shutter speed that can be selected in SH mode with 2550 PS, no blackout? That's an interesting question. Let me put my Pro lens. I think the 12 to 40 Pro will work at 50 FPS. I'm going to put it in Pro. Are you asking about Pro mode or SH mode? Well, Pro has SH mode, but let's just try regular SH1. And let me put the shutter speed. Let's try SH2. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So let me plug it back in so you can see it. So in the super control panel, let's go to, whoops. So in SH1, right? And then the slowest shutter speed is 1/15th of a second right here. I can go up, but I can't go any slower. And then in SH2, the slowest shutter speed I can do is 1/640th. So I can go faster up to 1/32,000th. But the slowest is 1/640th in SH2. And then in Pro Capture, let's see what this does. This will let me go down to 1/30th. Pro Capture SH1. This will let me go to 1/15th. Pro Capture SH2. Yeah, it looks like 1/640th. Okay. So that is the slowest. Ah. All right. All of Icarus. Everyone, please take a moment to come out of chat and give. Oh, thank you, Rick. It's in all caps, so I just had to read it. Can Pro Capture mode be used with Oh, yeah, I answered this one. And anyone pre-order? I did, obviously. Exciting times for a camera. Yep. How's the Viewfinder? Well, everyone says it's awesome. Okay, for me, I mean, it's an OLED, 5-something megapixel or something. It's nice. That's all I can tell you. And it's large. It's nice and large. Is it larger than this one? Let me see. Ironically, let me change the viewfinder mode. The EV Style 3, large. Style. Menu I. No right. Exactly where things are. Here. Feels a little bit larger on this than the M1 Mark III. And it's OLED, so the contrast and color is better. And supposedly it's higher resolution, but that, I don't know, that doesn't faze me too much. Because I think either viewfinder is fine, honestly. But I'm not quite as sensitive to the quality of the EVF. I don't know if it's because my eyes just aren't that good or what. Definitely the live view, even though it's a higher res and nicer, crisper text, I'm farsighted, so I have to hold the camera, like out to here to to be able to read it. And so that the nicer live view is wasted on me. So is the EVF to some extent. I really just use the EVF for framing and composition and stuff. I'm not paying attention to the very fine details too much. But it is nicer. Lots of information on there. So yeah, it's nicer. I wish I could be a little more excited about it, but that was a very low priority for me. It used to be a high priority for me when I was younger, like when I started 10 years ago or something. I was like, man, I want the nice EVF, and I could tell the difference right away. But now when I'm looking at just the EVF is not quite as important. I'm more concentrated on the composition and what's in the frame more so than the resolution. But everyone says it's really nice. And overall, this new Tech OM is giving big three. Yeah. What? Whoops. Wrong button. Overall, what body changes do you like the most between the OM-1? Oh, on the body itself, like I said, I like that they moved the front dial away or off of the button. Because I was saying this earlier in the stream, sometimes I would accidentally hit the shutter button while I'm trying to adjust something on the dial. But now that it's completely separate, I don't have that problem anymore. Um, the other thing I like about the body is they moved the microphone jack. I got tape over it, but they moved the microphone jack up high. So when, let's see, let's just try it. Supposedly when you plug in a mic, so I have a mic plugged in now, right up here. Yeah, you can still rotate the screen even though you have a jack. It's probably hard to see. Now I can still rotate the screen even though this wire is plugged in. So that's really nice. So I like that. Because I do use a hot shoe mic sometimes and I have to plug in the jack, but then the screen rotation is limited, but now it's not limited anymore if you have a mic plugged in. If you have anything else plugged in like USB-C and stuff, then yeah, you're going to be limited, but not with the mic jack. So those are the two main things on the body that I like. Um, the the grip, the material on the grip is pretty nice. A little bit finer grain, so it's a little grippier. That also could be just because it's new, right? Uh, that it feels grippier though. The rubber here has less slip to it than this one. This one feels a little bit harder. So it's almost like they went back because you remember the EM1 Mark II, and when people bought the EM1 Mark III, one of their complaints was is that the grip wasn't quite as grippy. Like the rubber didn't have as much friction to it. But it seems like they've kind of gone back to a little better material so that this feels grippier. Uh, Other than that, it's pretty much the same. They added an AF on button here. I don't use that too much, but a lot of people like that. There's a back button focus now dedicated. I'd say that's it. Everything else is pretty much the same. Uh, I'll try and do one as soon as I can, Marcia. I mean, uh, I'll do one as soon as I can. I need to take the camera out a little bit more and get a feel for all the different settings. If anything is kind of new. Um, yeah, one day my arms won't be long enough. That's true, Plato. Is the camera a little larger than the MK3? Yeah, about a millimeter. I mean, side by side, the only thing that looks substantially larger is the grip. That's substantially larger. But it's a millimeter or two taller and wider, but it's not noticeable at all. If you didn't look at the specs, you'd think they were the same size, other than the grip. The grip is beefier. when was my last vision exam? September last year. Apparently I have 20/20 vision. I'm just farsighted about 15 or 20%, and but my peripheral is perfect. Totally shocked me though. I swear to God, when I went in for the eye exam, I would have sworn they were going to ask me to get glasses. But they said, "No, you're fine." And I then because I can tell you my eyes are not as good as they were 10 years ago, but the fact that I can still legally drive without glasses is shocking to me because my vision is nowhere near what it was. So I really feel for people that have to wear glasses, how bad your vision must be more than what mine is already. I just can't imagine. Not sure if I asked already, but does the L plate you have on the MK3 also fit on the OM? No, it does not. It's because the handle is different. This L plate is very thin here on the handle. It's very narrow, and the grip on the OM-1 is thicker. So yeah, there's no way that's gonna fit. Yeah, and the camera's a little deeper. And that's why they had to make a new vertical grip for the camera because the old one won't fit anymore. And the same would apply to this L plate. I mean, generic L plates that aren't form fitted will work, obviously, but if you have a custom made fitted L bracket for your EM1 Mark III, it won't work on the OM1. Mechanical sound. The mechanical shitter sounds exactly the same as the EM1 Mark III. I doubt you'll even be able to hear it over the mic because I got like noise suppression on and all that stuff, but let me try. Where's my shutter mode? Shutter mode should be right there. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I don't know if you heard that. It's pretty much the same though. And this is the M1. Mechanical shutter. It sounds exactly the same. It's very quiet though. Uh, do the recessed dials work well? Yes. The recessed dials are fine. I don't have any issue. I mean, I heard some people have problems with gloves on. I can see where that might be an issue because the dials are recessed into the body, so the only thing exposed is the edge. Versus, the dials are outside of the body on the EM1 Mark III. So if you have gloves on, this would be an easier thing to turn with gloves. With gloves on, the EM1 Mark III will have easier dials to turn. But just get those gloves with the finger things that peel off and you're fine. That's very, very simple thing. Yeah, you can't hear it. Yeah, it's too quiet for the mic. And because I got like noise suppression and things turned on in OBS, I'd have to go in and turn those off. Let me see. I can try. Filters. Okay, noise suppression, noise gate, noise limiter, compressor. Everything is off. So this is my raw voice now over the microphone. Let's try it now. So that's the EM1 Mark III, and this is the OM1. You can probably hear it now. They sound exactly the same to me. All right, I got to turn my filters back on. Okay. No gloves needed in Australia. That's true. Hi, Rob. Got to test the thing in the field and help on systems optimize tracking if it's not really optimal. Hi, Rob. You got to test things in the field and help OM system optimize the tracking if it's not real. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll take it out a lot more and see. And if they want my feedback, they can pay for it or they can watch my videos. Uh, you know, I mean, I don't want to get cocky and say they need to pay me. They don't need to pay me. But I just need to uh I need to take it out in the field more, definitely. I took it out today and it was great, you know. In the field, I was just so impressed with the autofocus. I mean, just how quickly it locked on a bird, I just couldn't believe it. And it locked on my dog Ellie, no problem at all. It was pretty impressive. But I'll have to do a more systematic approach to shooting birds and shooting my dog to kind of to be able to quantify how good it is, how many shots did I get in focus, how many did I miss, and then I'll get a feel for the system, and then I'll be able to say, okay, my hit rate is say 50%. That's because my skill set is very low. But as my skill set improves, maybe I can get my hit rate to 80%. And then at some point, my skill set, personal skill set and ability is going to be maximized, right? I'm not going to get any better. At which point then I can say, okay, this is how the camera's performing with what I can do. These are settings that help me, get a better hit rate. But right now I'm at a point to where every time I go out, my skill set improves a little bit. So I haven't maxed out what I can do with birds in flight, for example, and tracking. But once I get a feel for what my limits are personally, then I can say, okay, the camera works better when you do this or do that. And then I can probably give, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Then I can give more credible advice to OM systems about what might improve the tracking system. But right now, any advice I might give, because I haven't gone out in the field enough, I haven't maximized my skill set, yada yada. Any advice I give would not be credible because it would be 50% user error, if not 100%, if I have any problems in the field. Um, Please don't shoot my dog. Hey, Lauren, how are you? Uh, let's see. Marcia, one more. Oh, what 100 likes. Yay. Looks like everybody hit the like button and left. Cats like birds. Is the EF is the AF really fast with small prime lenses in comparison to the M1 Mark III or the same? I don't have a feel for that yet. Um, with wider primes like 25, 17, and 12, it's going to be virtually impossible to tell if there's any difference in how fast they can focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 75 millimeter f1.8 and maybe the 45 1.8. I'll test those two and compare and see if the AF is faster on the OM-1 than it is on the EM-1. So that'll be my methodology. Because wide angle lens, just about any camera can snap focus almost instantly. But it's when you use the longer lenses uh, that you notice a difference in AF speed. So I'll test the 45 1.8 and the 75 1.8 and see if I can tell a difference. I can tell you that, and this should be obvious, but when I was using the EM10 Mark II and I upgraded to the EM1 Mark II, There was a huge difference in how fast the EM1 Mark II would focus over the EM10 Mark II with just about any lens. So I'll test that out. That's a good thing to check for. I have not dropped the camera yet. I don't know who asked, but I did not drop it yet. Did you try car, train, plane? No, I have not. I've done the dog and I've done the bird. I have not tried anything else. I just went out this morning for a couple hours, and that's all I could work with. I might go to a car racing thing this weekend with David, so I'll get a chance to try out the car detect. Trains, forget it. I don't have any trains around here. Lots of OS reports of better AF with primes with the latest firmwares for EM1s and EM5s. Might be interesting to check out if you haven't updated your bodies. I have updated them. I did not test before and after though. But I did see that the firmware update is supposed to have better autofocus. But I wouldn't know. On small primes, 12, 17, 25, you nail focus every time. Yeah. It's just about any camera can do it. Can do a good job with wide angles. Thanks, Rob. Just tried to test on the M1X. White rectangle appears on every bird. When half pressed, green frame appears around a single bird, regardless of AF target mode used. Assume the same with the OM-1. Yes. Yeah, when I have subject detect on, it doesn't care what the green area is. If it sees anything in the frame that looks like a bird, if you're on bird detect, it'll focus on that. So that's pretty cool. I don't have an EM1X, uh um but that's really cool. I've heard really good things about that camera, but it's just too big. I don't like the grip on it. And forgot about color grading, some warmth for clouds. No idea what you're talking about, Gigafish, but all right. Any other questions? 'Cause oh, let's look at a high res shot mode. I did do 2 high res shots, see if there's any difference. I mean, I doubt we'll be able to tell. Let's take a look. The reds. All right, so what do I have here? I have the EM1 Mark III on the left, OM-1 on the right, and these are 80 megapixel RAWs. Looks exactly the same to me. What do you think? I don't see any difference there. Yeah, it looks exactly the same. So, okay, no difference there. And any practical issues with the 100 to 400 IS not syncing with IBIS? I don't know. I don't have the 100 to 400 lens. David used it a little bit this morning on my camera. I don't know if David, if you have any feedback on that, but I have no idea. And CNH says, I was nervous about it as a hobby photographer, but you've eased my mind. Oh, good. I don't know which way I eased your mind, but I, question is, if this is your very first camera and you can afford it, it's an awesome camera to get, even as a first camera. And if you're really gonna get into photography, because normally I recommend people just get an entry-level camera from Olympus. Almost any camera manufacturer, they have very good entry-level cameras, but you can buy an EM10 Mark IV for like 6 or 700 bucks with a lens. You have to wait for a sale. You can get it a little less maybe. And that has virtually all of the features that the EM1 Mark III does, uh, save for the phase detect. And and if you really get a lot of use out of that camera, you can sell it and go buy an OM-1 and you'll be amazed. But if you can start with an OM-1, you will be very happy. No question. Because I know some people, it's they buy these real expensive cameras and they love them, but they don't know how to use them. They just put them in program mode. So that's one of the main reasons I started my channel was I wanted to teach people how to use their cameras because they bought the camera. Now they're just sitting on the shelf. And I can't tell you how many people, made a comment or sent me an email and said, Rob, my camera's been sitting on the shelf for 2 years until you showed me how to use it. Like, that's awesome because that's all I want. I want people to go out and use their cameras and enjoy photography the way I enjoy it because it's really a shame that camera companies are selling these very high-end cameras. Or let me rephrase that, very capable cameras. And you can do so much more with a camera than you can with a cell phone. Uh, that's changing a little bit now though, right? I've seen some amazing things with cell phones, but I'm a very tactile person. I like to be able to go on and turn a dial, push a button to change settings and have a nice, very tactile thing with photography versus rubbing my phone left and right. I hate that. I hate rubbing or sliding my, what do you call it when you do this, you're rubbing the screen. I hate that for photography. I like to have a nice solid, so I don't care that the menus and things are not touchscreen on here. I'd rather use the D-pad. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but I prefer a very tactile user experience with photography, and you can change things much faster. I mean, imagine you have a cell phone and a bird flies along, and you need to switch from a landscape type setting to a bird setting. It's not going to happen on a cell phone because you have to like tap, go into menu, slide down, select the sheet. The moment is over, But with a camera, you can set up a button to quickly change. Just tap a button and you can quickly change to a bird in flight setting. You once you get a little more advanced, you learn how to do all these different settings, and you're going to get so much more out of photography than you ever will with a cell phone, in my opinion. Um, because people just focus too much on image quality. Look at what this phone can take. Look at the kind of picture this can take. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but the situation I just gave you, where you're taking a picture of like your friends on a rock, or on a cliff and then this beautiful bald eagle flies by. You're not going to flip your cell phone around and be able to capture that eagle like that. But once you learn how to use this camera, you can do that with this camera. You could be taking a picture of your best friends sitting on a cliff, and then, one of those little UFOs go flying by, and you'll be like, tap a button, you're in a fast shutter mode, click, and you got it. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's just one example. There's countless examples in the field where when you have a very tactile buttons and dials on a camera and you need to quickly take another shot or change settings for another shot, it becomes very intuitive. Turn a dial here, push a button here, take the picture. Versus, a cell phone, man, just rubbing this thing and going, it just, this is the worst user experience for photography that I've ever experienced. Uh, it works great in a pinch. Like I need to take a picture of somebody's business card, or I need to take a picture of a menu, because I like this restaurant. I want to come back, but I want to take a picture of the menu sometimes, right? Um, things like that. This is fine, but not for photography as an enthusiast, as a hobbyist. Nothing is like having a real camera, in my opinion. Okay, that's enough rant. Um, swipe, that's the word. Swipe. Swiping your phone. Thank you. Thank you. I hate cell phones. I hate apps. They're just a necessary evil. Um, I mean, they're very convenient. I like texting now. For years and years, I didn't even know how to text. And then someone showed me and they said, "This is the best thing ever." And I'm like, "Why would you text? Just call them. Why would you text somebody? Just call them." So for a long time, I never texted. And then people started texting me because they asked me for my number. And then I kind of got the hang of it. I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. I don't have to call nobody or talk to nobody. I can be a complete, introvert with texting. All right. I was ranting about phones. Your videos encouraged me to explore manuals shortly after buying the camera. Oh, thank you, Shaz. I'm glad I could help. Um, 12th camera now that over 45 years of photography, the best camera is the one you have with you. Yep. But that's like saying to your wife, "You're my favorite wife." Well, you only have one. He's the only one with you. That's why I never liked that term because it's like it's the only one with you. It is the best camera. Can you assign a function to AF on? Oh, that's a good question. You can. I did it this morning actually. But AF on button. So if I go into the button menu, button function, AF on. Yep. What I did, I assigned the AF on button to the subject detect. Where's the cable? Oh, so you just go into the menu, right? And under the sprocket, button settings, button function, and then here's the AF on button, right? Okay, there. And then you can assign it. I do like this. This is a nice update to the menu. You can see more things at once. So now the AF on button is now the magnify button, or I like to use subject detect. So now when I push the AF on button, I can change the subject detect rather than it being AF on. Okay. Um, Actually, in the Olympus line, wouldn't the OMD M10 Mark IV be more camera than most would need when beginning? Most features I'll never used on that OM-1. What to consider is dynamic range. It really depends on the person, Lauren. I mean, if a person is really very enthusiastic about photography, they're going to learn how to use all the features and take advantage of them. Um, The EM10 is certainly lacking like my sets and custom settings. The EM10 just doesn't have that, as far as I know. And that's a very, very handy feature. That's something that really the EM1s and the OM-1 are the only cameras now that have that. The older models, the EM10 Mark II, the EM5 Mark II, have custom settings, but they kind of did away with those on the lower end models. So if you're a beginning photographer and you want to buy a new camera, you can't buy EM10 Mark II new out off the shelf anymore, right? So your choices are basically the EM5, which has a limited custom function ability. That's one of the biggest drawbacks of the EM5 Mark III. But the EM1 Mark III, the OM1 have the custom functionality, the My Menus, and of course the autofocus with bird tracking. So I think a person, if they can afford the very best Olympus or OM system camera now, I really wouldn't hesitate recommending it if it's within their budget. If they're very enthusiastic and want to get into photography, if if they're just looking to upgrade their phone, like, oh, I'm not getting great pictures with my phone, whether it's the latest phone or not, and they think a new camera is going to help them get better pictures, in that case, I would say just get the base entry level camera like the EM10 Mark IV. And then when you learn how to use the camera and get into photography and find that you can take better images with an entry level camera, then later on you can start upgrading. But I think if somebody's very enthusiastic and wants to get into photography and they can afford it, why not get the best one first, right? Because I know people that they did buy very expensive cameras to start out with, and they're very enthusiastic with it. And they're dying to learn how to use it. I can, because I used to teach the in-person classes, and there was a couple of people there, and they'd walk in with like $10,000 in gear, and they're using program mode, or they got $2,000 in gear. They're using program mode, but they love photography and they want to learn how to use it, right? So I have no they and I have no problem recommending if for somebody like that to get a really good camera to start out with. But there's people out there that like are not getting the pictures they want with their cell phone. So those people I say, yeah, get an EM10 Mark IV and learn how to use it. And if you're getting better pictures with the EM10 Mark IV because you learned how to use it, that's great. But maybe they're not that enthusiastic about photography. They just want to get better pictures, but they're not going to go all in like some people like me, right? I'm like all in. I want to learn every single feature and what it does and use it, if I want, right? And then Rob Trek, I'm curious, can you customize the tracking box or more on the OM1? Does DP Review dig enough to optimize the track? The tracking box you cannot optimize. It's a square, I believe. You can optimize the focusing area, like crosshair, single point, horizontal, vertical. There's all kinds of customizations for focus points, but the tracking box itself is independent, right? It can be larger, it can be smaller. It depends what you're trying to track. Yeah. Yeah. Lauren, there's a photographer that there's a lot of photographers like you, right? They never go into the menus, they never learn the function buttons. They just set the camera in manual mode and they go out and shoot. Or they just put it in aperture priority and they go out and shoot. They just make sure they got raw set and that's it. That's all they care about. They don't care about color profiles or, live comp, any special features. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just know how to take a good picture and they use a digital camera to, because the workflow is a lot faster than film, right? They get instant results. They can, they're just modernizing. Um, but people that used to shoot film all the time, I think, are less inclined to use the features that the digital cameras can offer sometimes because they, you know, they just care about the final image. What picture did I take today? Do I like the pictures I'm taking today? Do the pictures evoke some kind of feeling or emotion? Do they tell a story? That's all they care about. And all the other fancy pants features and things, the fancy autofocus features, with the subject, they could care less. They just want it, they just want to take a picture. Uh, but buying a good camera, and that's the thing with Olympus up until the OM-1 came out. You could buy the EM10 Mark IV, the M5 Mark III, or the M1 Mark III. You're going to get virtually the same image quality no matter which one you buy, from like 600 or 700 bucks up to a couple thousand. That was the good thing. So any photographer, for photographers that don't care about all of the bells and whistles, EM10 Mark IV is fine. Um, or maybe they like the EM1s for the handling because it has a grip. So they buy the cameras for for the more, what's the word I'm looking for whatever fits their purpose in terms of handling. If they're fine with a little compact EM10, but they're getting great image quality, they're fine. Or if they prefer the grip, but they may never go like yourself, never use a function button, use any of the special features. They just want a quality piece of equipment, right? You want quality images and you want quality gear, and all of the bells and whistles are irrelevant to you. So, but you're in a place now, like you said, after 50 years, um, you can do that. You can make a buying decision based on some very, very simple metrics. What's the final image quality? What's the lens selection, right? And uh, that's it. And the handling. That's all you care about. And you never touch the menu or use a function button or any of the fancy stuff, right? Hope to disable. Yes, you can disable the half press shutter button. It's in the menu. I don't know exactly where it is right now, but I know you can disable the shutter button AF and only use the back button for focus. Um, sorry, I I meant to show this comment. But yeah, you can program the AF button only and not the shutter button to do any kind of AF. Yeah, Leicas are simple cameras. Yeah, for the most part. I think they got some fancier ones too, but they're so out of my budget. I don't even think about them. Uh, to me, custom modes are very useful. Yep. And CNH says I'm looking for the 100 to 400 or the 50 to 150 with TC2. I don't have any recommendations. I assume you mean the 40 to 150 with a TC2. Uh, if you don't mind carrying a heavier lens, the 100 to 400 is a better choice. Um, I think the image quality is very sharp and it's relatively affordable, right? The 40 to 150 with a TC2 will run you a little bit more money, but it's going to be more versatile than low light, right? Because it's an f2.8 versus an f5 something. Um, and you're going to be at f5.6 when you add the teleconverter, and you'll only be at 300 millimeters. So you're actually going to get more reach with the 100 to 400. So if you're thinking about just, birding, wildlife type things, the 100 to 400 to me seems like the more logical choice uh, than getting a 40 to 1. But the 40 to 150 will give you more versatility, right? Because you can go all the way back to 40 millimeters at f2.8 or 150 at 2.8. And then if you need to, you can add the teleconverter and get that extra reach, but you're back up to 5.6, which is pretty much the same as the 100 to 400. So I would I would probably recommend the 100 to 400 uh, because you'll save $300 or $400 and you'll get more reach and effectively the same image quality. AF can focus dark EV8. I don't know how to measure negative EV8. Um, I know it'll focus well in low light because when I got the camera in last night, it was dark and it was focusing fine. But I mean, I'd have to turn off. I turn off all the lights in this office. I'll try it. Why not? Let's see. It's Yep, it's still focusing. I don't know if you can hear the beep. Maybe I can plug this in. Let's see. So, is this plugged in or not? No connection. There. All right, so it's virtually pitch black in here, but yeah, it's focusing. If I focus down here, what oops. So even at f1.7 ISO 200, this is an 8-second exposure. It still locks on. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what -8 EV means. I don't have a 1.4 lens. I just have a f1.7 is the fastest lens I own. The Panasonic 1.7. I'm a cheapskate when it comes to lenses. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. The 100 to 400, you can use a teleconverter on that as well and get even more reach. I think that's really the better choice. Yeah, I didn't drop anything, Lauren. Okay. Oh, hi. This is someone just joined in. Oh, John Borges. Hi. Well, welcome to the stream. Good to see you. I'm always glad to help. What time? What do you mean it's, oh, crap. It's like 6 o'clock. I gotta go. This is good advice. The EM1 Mark II is a stellar camera. And that, if a brand new flagship camera is not in your budget, like the OM-1, the EM1 Mark II is a flagship camera that it just amazing, amazing. I sold mine for 500 bucks, you know? Uh, and it is not that far off from the OM-1 in terms of image quality and stuff. The focusing is not as good, okay? But it's excellent. The OM-1 is just wow, okay? The OM-1 autofocus is amazing. But the M1 Mark II autofocus is excellent. The face detect's not as good as the M1 Mark III. EM1 Mark III has better face detect, but the EM1 Mark II, oh my gosh, that's excellent. That's an excellent point. Not, if you buy a used flagship camera, whatever brand you want to buy a used one flagship, that's maybe 4 or 5 years old at most, and you will get an excellent camera with all the features that you can grow into. Thank you, Mark. That's a very solid point. Um, M1 Mark II. Yeah, the G9 I think came out less than a year later. But yeah, the M1 Mark II is older than the G9. They're both excellent cameras. And hi Rob. Whoops, sorry. Hi Rob. Sorry I'm late to the Q&A. Do you know if AF Plus tracking is available in slow motion high speed mode? So I assume you mean with continuous autofocus, for example. Let me see. A lot of things I don't know off the top of my head, so we're just going to try it here live. Let me get to the right screen. This is the EM. So, okay. Let me put that white balance back on auto. Blue tint is killing me. So the question is AF plus tracking. So let's go here. Continuous AF plus tracking, and the shutter speed you want to be SH2, right? Because that would be the high speed. So it looks like it, yeah, I have it in SH2, even SH1. No, SH1, you see the tracking turns off. My only choice is manual focus or single autofocus. So SH2 does allow tracking. So why am I overexposed? Let me go into aperture. All right. So if I pick, it's tracking. those flowers. It goes out of frame. Yeah. When it goes out of frame, it loses tracking, but it seems to hold up okay. And oh, yeah. When I started taking pictures though, the tracking got confused. If I move it, well, okay, so the short answer is yes, it works. The long answer is the longer answer is that the tracking itself, I bet the subject detect is fine, but the generic AF tracking is not that great anyway, so I don't recommend you use it. But technically the answer is yes. In SH2, continuous autofocus plus tracking does work. That is the technically correct. In practice, I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, I like the new super control panel. It is nice. I agree. If you have to go, I'll watch your video later. I just got home and putting some groceries away with my wife. Have a nice, restful evening. Get some rest, peace in Christ. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Um, all right, so I think I'll call it here. I'm tired, and I got a big stream tomorrow with a guest, Ariana, tomorrow. So I need to prep for that a little bit too. But I'll be on tomorrow at 12. And Jimmy said he has a stream tomorrow, so I have to find out when that is. And hopefully it doesn't overlap. But we can always watch either one after, right? You can watch his live and watch mine later, or vice versa. So it doesn't really matter if they're on at the same time. But um, uh, we will. I'll be on tomorrow at 12 with an awesome younger photographer, somebody kind of new that I think you guys will really like. And I got two more interviews lined up in one more in March. I'm going to try and do two more in March. Well, at least two, maybe three special guests. And I'm going to learn more about this camera as I'll take it out a few times this week. And then maybe in a week or two, I'll start doing some more tutorials and comparisons. So thanks everyone for joining in today. I appreciate it. You guys have a good weekend, what's left of it. And we'll see you tomorrow.